Hello and welcome to the Strong Friend podcast with Jack and Lewis. This week's topic we have a lot of personal experience with is how to build self-confidence and how to build that resilience internally and find out what truly makes you happy about yourself. If you know someone who's struggling with confidence, who's always beating themselves up, share this with them because there's some challenges that might help them. Now let's get into the video. So Lou, how's your week been, man?
It's been a tough week, Jack, to be honest, because I've been working loads and I've been dieting harder than I've dieted for a long, long time and been low on energy. But I've still been trying to keep it together, still going. But I've seen a lot in the news lately about coronavirus and all the rest of it and how there's going to be more lockdowns and all the different tiers. And I don't know if you know, because obviously you're in London now, but where I am, Stoke, it's tier 2 as of today, so it's...
Is that as of today? I thought that happened like a few days ago.
Oh, yeah, well, technically, because I'm Newcastle, it's been tier 1, but now it's gone to tier 2, so we're not really looking for a bloody positive few months, I don't think, are we? I'm hoping that we get it sorted for Christmas, though, because obviously I want to see my family and stuff. You know what I mean?
This is the whole debate, isn't it? This is what everyone's talking about at the minute. Are they going to just completely lock everything down and then let it out for Christmas again, just to be locked down again in January? Or are they going to keep to this tiered approach? Because if you lock everyone down for like a complete 4 weeks again, mentally it's going to kill everyone for Christmas coming up. And then as soon as you have Christmas, you have a big blowout. They maybe loosen the restrictions a little bit, and then everyone catches it again. And then in January, you have to do the exact same thing. So how many times do we have a lockdown?
100%, mate. Yeah, it's been going on now for March last year, and I remember the last lockdown. Mate, it was just up in the beginning because my eating habits, like I haven't got a great relationship with food, as you know. And in the beginning, like we spoke about it before, but like my eating habits for the first few months were horrendous, really, really bad. And this time I'm going to make sure that doesn't happen because I've got more precautions in place. I think the one good thing about this next lockdown is I feel like a lot more people will be prepared. But that's not to say that people aren't going to suffer, because it is difficult when people are just staying in all the time.
Yeah, but I think we have got to look at the positives. You have got to look at what you learned from last time and how you can use it to benefit you.
Well, yeah. I mean, last time I got to the point after those rough few months. I think everyone had a rough few months in the beginning, didn't they? Because it's so new.
Yeah.
But I felt like I got all these different coping mechanisms together, and I was meditating more, and I just got into a good flow of like going for a run. Like I brought some running shoes, because I remember the first run that I did, you challenged me to it.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That's how long this has been going on for. But the shoes that I wore just weren't good, man. I was in blisters for days.
You were wearing some... Were they...
I think they were like Air Maxes or something.
Yeah, I thought they were like Lacoste plimsolls or something.
No, they weren't that, but they were proper rubbing on my feet. But I brought... I've got them on eBay, like these Nike proper running shoes, and got some proper running socks as well. So
yeah.
if it does go into another lockdown again, I know like I'm going to make sure I take priority with my exercise and like me eating well and stuff like that. It's not been good around here as well, because usually you're never able to get like McDonald's on Uber Eats or Just Eat.
Yeah.
Whereas now you can get McDonald's, KFC, Burger King.
You need to delete them apps, you do.
Whereas in London, I suppose you were used to just... how many restaurants can you get on Uber Eats in London?
You can get anything you want. Whatever you're in the mood for, you can get on Deliveroo or Uber Eats or whatever. Choose your platform, you get whatever you want.
At any time of day?
Yeah, any time of day.
Oh, I love that.
So, last podcast, we spoke about doing something for a week.
Yeah.
That was challenging to both of us. For those of you who didn't see last week's episode, I was challenged to do cold showers for a week, and Lewis was challenged to do essentially just reading more for the week. So how did that go?
It went well, mate. The book that I read was Tyson Fury's biography.
Yeah.
And Yeah, I'm like halfway through it now because it's an easy read, and I feel like listening to someone on that caliber speak about issues on depression is a godsend. Like from where he came from to where he is now, it's like it's so motivational. Like when I spoke about that fight with Wilder that he had on the second one that he like you think when he basically he speaks about in the beginning that he wanted to take his own life. And then you think about that, and then you think about now, he's just like ran through one of the best heavyweights on the planet in the space of 2 years.
Yeah.
So it just goes to show that like anything's possible.
It's interesting to hear how passionate you are about it. Like you're almost giving me the same energy as if you were talking about Naruto, like, and your anime stuff.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that you found a passion for it. You found that it's actually something that you enjoy doing. So is that, and I guess the follow-up question has to be, is this something that you are going to continue into your routine? Are you going to try and add it into your routine?
Yeah, definitely, because I spoke before and I said I've always enjoyed reading, but I just fell out of love with it for whatever reason, and I just stopped. So now when I finish this book, I'm going to make sure I pick another one right up and just keep going. How did the cold showers go? Have you gotten to the full cold yet, or?
Well, right. So after the gym, if I go to the gym in the morning, after the gym, I find them really easy. Like, Not really easy, but it's a lot easier mentally to get into that state and get into that zone. Yeah. And also, I think my body's moved a bit, so there's some blood flow. Whereas if I get in a cold shower straight out of bed into a cold shower, oh my god, that is hard. I'm sat there like so what I need to do and what I haven't done yet is look at the Wim Hof breathing. I really need to do that because at the minute, like I say, for after the gym, I feel confident to go in.
Yeah.
And I know what you mean about confidence. You do feel well, how I'd describe it for people who've never done one is when you're in that state of just having cold water on you, and it's almost like a bit of a panic state. You can't think about anything other than this cold water that's on you. And you can't think about anything other than the situation that you're currently in. Yeah. So I know a lot of people overthink in the shower. They spend like half an hour in a shower just like listening to like depressed music, just like I even know someone who used to sit in a shower.
Yeah. Mind you, I think I've done that a few times, but
and so it stops you from overthinking. It almost reframes your mind into, okay, let's refocus. So from that perspective, it's refreshing, and you walk out with this confidence that you've dropped everything that you're overthinking, even if it's just for a few minutes. Yeah. Advice that I would give, so I agree with the lukewarm technique. If you're going to start on lukewarm and then slowly work your way down. Yeah. Another thing I found is if you're someone who's used to having quite powerful showers, that with freezing cold water just does not mix. So try and release the pressure a bit so that it's a bit softer on you. But it's got. I wish I could go back to hot showers. I'm going to be honest, but I'm going to stick to the cold showers. I really am, because it's the moments before I hate the moments before, because I always try and talk myself out of them. The moments after, when you're like wrapped up in your towel afterwards, you're like, this I feel much more confident.
Yeah, you've hit the nail on the head, because when you do the Wim Hof Method, you're getting like the capillaries running, you're getting the blood flow, and it's the same as what you said about being in the gym. You're breathing a lot heavier, aren't you? And you're getting the blood flow, whereas if you've been in your duvet for 8 hours, you're nice and cozy, and you go straight into the cold, it's going to be a massive shock. So yeah, definitely don't recommend that. And also what you've just said, I feel like the cold showers do reframe exactly what you're thinking. Like sometimes, well, like I say, I don't even have a hot shower anymore, and I feel like I'm hoping that you get to that point, because it's beautiful, man, and the skin feels clearer. You're not
it does.
anxious.
It does. So I had a. In fact, it's this morning. So
Yeah.
I put my shower on to lukewarm,
Yeah.
and I felt that even lukewarm was too hot for me. Like my face I was getting like
Yeah.
flustered almost.
You do.
So I had to turn it down to my face just to feel like a cooling sensation.
Yeah.
Whereas usually I'm one of them people who would have a really hot shower, like a super, super hot shower.
Yeah.
But now even lukewarm started to get I was getting almost agitated
Yeah.
with it, and I just wanted to cool down.
Can you see exactly why I say I don't take hot showers
Yeah,
anymore?
no, I can, mate. Like I say, I think I just struggle it's the getting out of bed. That's the hard part. Once you've got out of bed and you're into a shower, I'm so used to that just being a hot shower and just warming me up that when it's cold, it's just such a shock. So
I think the trick is also not to overthink it, because
it is. Yeah,
it's not very nice in the beginning, obviously. So, but I feel like if you're overthinking it, then you're putting yourself through the pain twice as much. Yeah, and there's no need. So, but you will get the confidence to just whack it on there. Like now, I'm going to do it later. I'm just going to jump in there, and I'll spend a full 10 minutes just under the freezing cold. And
it's
like you say,
it's
you come out a
crazy
new
to me
person.
to think about the freezing cold, because at the minute I'm on like 1.
Yeah.
I'm on like 1, so there's a tiny, tiny bit of warm water there.
Yeah.
I could do freezing cold after a gym. I could not right now. I
Yeah.
could not do freezing cold in the morning.
Well, mine's got like 3 settings, and in the beginning, I put it on the middle setting. So the second one, which it was so cold, whereas now, like that's nothing to me now.
Yeah,
It's good because the cold allows your body to be able to handle stress a lot better. So physical stress and muscle tension and all that kind of stuff, it's just good overall. I recommend anyone do it. And
Yeah,
I'm
so-
glad that you're doing it, because
yeah.
I
I'd
brought this
recommend
to your
it.
attention before. Sorry, I brought this attention to you before, and I remember you were like, "Nah, I'm not doing that," because no one wants to do it. Because
Yeah, I agree. I was very skeptical at first. I just didn't believe in it. I was like, I do all this stuff.
yeah,
I don't need to add anything more to my routine. But it's stupid. That's closed mind. That's just being arrogant. So
we all do it with new
yeah.
things. It's just the way that it is. It's the way that the human mind works, because it just wants to stay comfortable.
Yeah, if you're listening to this now, so we've both given 2 techniques that we both found really helpful. Choose one of the 2 that we've done and do it for a week.
The reading's probably going to be better.
We'll catch up again in next week's podcast, and hopefully we won't have dropped it. Hopefully this is a theme that we can keep on talking about, and we prove that after a month, so after like 4 episodes, we're still doing it.
Mate, I love that because when there's a lockdown, we could just we'll just challenge like anyone listening to just pick one thing and just keep it going. Keep yourself because I think, like you say, you've got to have a routine. Otherwise, that's when you really start to suffer mentally, when you just got no routine and you're just lying in bed and not doing anything. And that was me. I don't know if it was you as well, but that was definitely me.
Yeah, I agree with you, mate. So the things that I mentioned this cold shower leads to, it links with this week's topic, because this week's topic is building confidence. And building confidence is something that takes an incredible amount of time and dedication to. And it's something that you wish could happen overnight, but it doesn't.
Yeah.
So, for you, Lou, when would you say you are at your... Let's start with your lowest confidence. Where were you at when you were at your lowest confidence?
The first thing that comes to mind is I was just under 19 stone, which for me is really, really heavy. So lowest confidence would be when I've got a lot of weight on me. When I say a lot of weight, I mean like I was, 60 pounds over what I should be. So when that happens, I didn't want to... I suppose social anxiety increases because you're walking around and you're thinking, oh, what are they thinking about me? They're probably thinking, oh, look at him, he's put a lot of weight on and all that kind of stuff. And
Yeah.
so my lowest confidence would definitely be when physically I look my worst in terms of weight. And I think it's like that for a lot of people as well.
It's interesting you say that, because although that was true in your case, When I was at my biggest,
Yeah.
so I got to 95 kilograms. I think that's about 15 and a half stone. I don't know what it is. But I'm 5'9", and 95 kilos on 5'9" does not look good.
Yeah.
I had facially, I was actually looking back on some pictures the other day.
Yeah.
My eyebrows were a mess. My hair was a mess. My beard wasn't shaped. But even at that point where, if I look back on it, I think that's the worst that I looked. It wasn't the worst confidence that I had.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
the worst confidence I ever had. So, you know what? The worst self-confidence I ever had was probably after my breakup.
Yeah.
After being in a relationship for 5 years and after the breakup, that was probably the lowest confidence in myself that I ever had. And that wasn't the worst I ever looked. But it was the worst I ever felt about the way I looked. And some of the things that I was doing was, well, if you were to go on my Instagram, it's interesting actually. If you were to go onto my Instagram, there's a picture of me back in Stoke where I've got a red shirt on. It's about Christmas time, and I'm sat there, and I'm just smiling like that. I'm very hunched over. My shoulders are raised, my neck's and my chin is tucked down, and then my smile is not showing my teeth at all.
Yeah.
And that was just, I thought I couldn't even speak to anyone. I'd freeze up. I'd just get so caught up in, I can see what, I was looking at through other people's eyes at myself and only seeing the negatives.
Yeah.
I was very much struggling to see the positives. So even though you say, usually it's when you look the worst or you're at your biggest that your confidence is lowest, but actually mine was when I didn't even look that bad.
Well, that's interesting because I suppose everyone can be like that. Like, maybe it's a bit narrow-minded of me to say that, or I think it's just something I've picked up on over the years, is that I've always associated being lean with happiness, which I know is not necessarily the case, but I think in your case, when you experience a breakup, you start to blame yourself, or you start to think that you can't get anybody else, and I think maybe you were getting caught up when you were speaking to people just in your own head, and I think often what we do is we try and predict what others are thinking.
Yes.
Because there's like three different things, isn't there? There's what we think about ourselves, what we think others think about ourselves, and what other people do actually think about us. And we're always negative thinking, wow, they're thinking this about me, they're thinking I'm ugly and this and that and the other. And yeah, it's interesting you say about the beard not being shaped as well, because I feel like even just a simple haircut can really boost your confidence.
It can.
Yeah.
I want to go back to what you were saying about the three pillars there, because that is nail on the head. Yeah. I felt I have a real problem with control. So I struggle with not knowing or not being in control of a situation.
Yeah.
It's something that I'm really trying to challenge myself with, to get better and to feel more comfortable in the zone where you just don't have any control.
Yeah.
And when you're speaking to someone new, when you're dating, when you first get out of a relationship, you don't have any control over what that person thinks or sees about you.
Yeah.
And then I found that really tough, and I found that incredibly uncomfortable being in that situation. So I had to learn how to be okay with the fact that no matter what I do, it's not going to change the way that another person looks at me in terms of physical features. Like you can get a haircut, you can get a beard shape. You can get endless things.
Yeah.
But that still doesn't change the way that you're still not going to control the way that person looks at you. That person's
100%.
always going to look at you the way that they're going to look at you.
Yeah, you could be like the best looking man on the planet, and someone is going to think that you're ugly because everyone's got their own perception of what they think is good looking. And yeah, you're right. So in that respect, there's no point wasting time worrying about what other people think. And I've learnt that recently doing the podcast.
Yeah, it's very difficult to accept that thought though, because even to this day, I still struggle with it. You still question what people think about your physical appearance. You still question what people think about the way that you speak, and you try and adapt that to try and make them feel more comfortable. When in reality, you should only care about what you think about yourself, and that's probably the hardest thing to understand, because what you think about yourself is usually derived from looking through someone else's eyes.
Yeah, it is. And I think, like you say, there's not really much that you can do to control what other people think, but I feel like if your inner dialogue is negative, you're going to think that other people are being negative.
Yeah.
Whereas, in fact, they might not be negative at all. They might be thinking really positive things about you. So I think in that respect, there's a certain element of just acceptance and self-love is really important. Because the more self-love that you're going to have, you're going to be thinking, like, your confidence is going to grow, and then you start going out and you think, actually, yeah, people are going to think, you know, I'm a nice person and this and that. Whereas if you're just negative about yourself all the time, then of course you're going to think that other people are thinking negatively of you. It's not what they're actually thinking, it's just you're in a dialogue that you're getting caught up in.
Well, there's a book that I've read that is called Now Discover Your Strengths. And anyone who's... In fact, I'd like you to read it, but I'm just not sure whether at this point it's one of them that you'd find interesting you'd find fun to read.
Well, tell me about it then, and then I'll let you know.
So one of the things it teaches you is that in school, you were always taught what you got wrong, and in order to get full marks, you had to improve on what you did wrong, go back and revisit the topics that you did wrong. Now, that's all well and good, but when you focus on the negatives and what you can't do, later on in life, that has a natural tendency to focus on the negative, the inner dialogue. Whereas if you focused on your strengths and what you did really well, and you actually built on those strengths, you'd
excel.
You'd be a much more confident person.
Yeah,
and it links with what you were just saying, where you need to be accepting of your good parts, and you need to find through your own eyes what you really love about yourself, whether it's your personality, where you think, oh, I'm actually a really funny guy, or whether it's, oh, I'm actually a really caring person. Find what you love about yourself and use it a lot. Don't focus on what you can change and what you think is negative. Focus first on the positives and what you can really use and improve and nourish.
100%. There's an interesting story I read the other day about a kid that built this tree house, and it was like dead nice, and like he was in love with this tree house that he'd built. I think he'd spent like all weekend on it or whatever, and then he was examining it at the end, and there was like a little tiny bit of wood that was just out of place, and all of a sudden that's all he could focus on. He was thinking, oh, when my friends come around, they're gonna see this, and the reality of it is they came round and they didn't even see it. It was just he was so focused on the negative. But as soon as he started to listen to his friends and they were like, no, it's really nice, he started to like it again. So it just proves that, like, we focus on the negatives far too much. Far too much.
Yeah.
Manifest your strengths. there's a brilliant quote as well from Bruce Lee. You know, I love Bruce Lee.
Yeah.
Favorite martial artist. He said, "I fear the man who has practiced the same kick 1,000 times, not the man that has practiced 1,000 different kicks once." And it's so true, because it just means when you're manifesting your strengths and not focusing on your weaknesses, you're going to thrive. If you're constantly putting yourself down and thinking, oh, well, even though I'm good in this area is going to negate that because I'm so bad at it and all that. Everyone's got different strengths. You can't, if that's the case, you're never going to be happy in life, because the perfect person doesn't exist. Does that make sense? The perfect person does not exist.
So true.
Yeah.
Everyone always looks for that perfect person. And the reason that people usually look for the perfect person is because you're so focused on the negatives that you're forgetting to see the positives. And you're forgetting to really... You're so focused on the negatives that you forget to enjoy and nourish them positives. Because if you nourish them positives, you could take that feeling to the next level. And you don't even know that yet.
Well, not only that, it's robbing you of joy, and it's robbing you of the present moment, because whenever you're in that present moment, like Jack said, he was speaking to people. He could have been having a meaningful conversation, but in his mind, he's thinking, oh, they're thinking negative about me, this, that, and the other, and you just would have been stuck in your mind. You wouldn't have been making meaningful connections with anyone, because you were so stuck in that negative core belief that you weren't good enough.
It's funny because when I first started dating, it's funny you mention that, because when I first started dating, I was looking at how other people dated and how you should speak to women. And I should have focused on what I'm good at. And what I'm good at is actually listening and having a proper conversation with people. So I always strike up meaningful conversations with people because I actually listen and I actually care about what you're saying. Yeah. So I should have been focusing on that, because I have a real strength with that. I have a real strength with empathy, with understanding. Well, I was actually just doing, looking at how you should flirt with people, how you should, you know what I mean? I was saying things that I didn't even care about. I didn't even...
Well, if you overthink it like that as well, it just doesn't work, does it? You've got to let it flow.
It's not a natural state to be in.
Yeah. You've just got to, like you say, when you just fully get out of your head and in the present moment, your personality is just going to take over anyway, and you're sort of just going to do what you're going to naturally do. It's like you're on autopilot almost, which is good because you've got many strengths about you. So,
I think the hardest part is to try and look at your own. It sounds so stupid, but the hardest part is to look at what you're good at and to actually find what you're good at. And it's sad that I say that, because you should be taught that from such a young age. You should be taught from when you're a kid to look at what are your strengths, what are you really good at, what do you really like about yourself, not what can you improve. What do you really like about yourself right now, and how can we nurture that, and how can we really make that a core foundation?
Mate, I 100% agree. I feel like maybe not so much now in schools, but back when we were in school, primary school, high school, like you just said, you're always focusing on the negatives. It's not, oh, well, you're really good at this, so you should really, really focus on this. And I think when you're ingrained from that early of an age to sort of focus on the negatives, all of a sudden when you leave school, we're still doing that, because we're all kids at heart, aren't we? We've all got that inner child that is wounded, basically. And it sounds deep, but it's so true. Like if you've been taught that, then it's not your fault that you think that way. Like you're just part of the system. Like that's what you've been brought up to believe. But we can change those beliefs. So
I think especially because one thing that amplified that even more was when social media came around and you saw the perfect people on social media, or what were perceived to be the perfect people on social media. You've got this natural dialogue of, oh, let's improve my weaknesses. And then on top of that, you've got what's glorified to be the perfect person. So I remember in high school, the perfect person was either Zac Efron, Justin Bieber. It was kind of a clean cut,
Yeah.
long hair, and could sing and could dance. And that was like the ideal person. And if you look back to how many people started to grow their hair out, and how many people started to try and sing and to dance and to imitate that,
Yeah.
and to try and change themselves. So instead of focusing on their own strengths, they try and focus on how can I improve myself to be more like them. And I think the more that social media grows, and the more that people's opinions on what's new and what's fashionable changes, the more people adapt to that and start to change themselves to be that, rather than to focus on what truly their strengths are.
100%.
For instance, everyone will do it. Everyone will do it. But you need to find something that's unique to you. What do you have that the Dwayne Johnsons of this world don't have? What do you have that the Zac Efrons don't have? Why is that special to you? And why should I care? Once you've found that, nourish it, and you will see a dramatic difference in the way that you build confidence.
Well, one of the things that I did was I sat down, took my time and wrote out what I thought I was good at. And actually I found that there was quite a fair few things that I thought that I was good at. Whereas if you're just sitting there thinking in your mind, you have a natural proclivity to just think about the negative. But when you write it down on paper, you can see it there for yourself. That, yes, okay, this is what I'm good at. And then once you know what you're good at, then you can start making a plan of, okay, well, this is how I'm going to improve this and this. Because it goes, again, about what you said at the beginning of the conversation about having the issue with control. And I think we can all have issues with that, but control, there are a lot of things that we can control. There are so many things that we can't control, but the things that we can control are things like, what are we going to do? What foods are you going to put into your body? How much exercise are you going to do per week? What exposure are you going to give yourself in terms of like what YouTube videos am I going to watch? Am I going to read? Am I going to do this? Do you see what I mean? So there are actually a lot of things in your control that you can do. Whereas if you're always focusing on, oh, well, this, that and the other, and I can't do this and I can't do that, then you're never going to find happiness. What do you reckon about that?
I agree with you, mate. I agree. I do want to go back to one thing that you said though. You wrote down your strengths and what you found in yourself. Have you ever asked other people what they think your strengths are?
No, I don't think I have.
It's so interesting because I've done it, and I did it. I asked you. I asked a couple other friends, what are my strengths? What am I doing when I'm at my best? And how could the questions were, what am I doing when I'm at my best?
Yeah.
And how could I be at my best more often? Interestingly enough, the responses that I got from other people actually gave me insight to things that I didn't even think were that important.
Yeah.
And what's crazy is we never ask people, what do you like most about me? Just to a friendship group, especially guys, especially blokes. I found it really awkward having to message my friends and ask them this. I think I probably even put it in the message beforehand. I'm sorry that I have to ask you this. I was apologising for asking, what do you like about me?
Yeah.
But if you've got a friend, I'm going to challenge people now. And I'm going to challenge you as well.
Go on then, yeah.
Pick 3 people in your life. It doesn't matter who the three people are, and ask them, what am I doing when I'm at my best? and how could I be at my best more often?
Yeah.
So those are your two questions. It's very awkward to ask people that because it's not a natural question. It's not a natural topic. But I'll tell you something: the confidence and the encouragement that you get from that. It's going back to what we're saying. It's focusing on your strengths. You're learning about your strengths, but from another perspective, and maybe it'll completely surprise you. Maybe it'll be something that you actually knew all along, and that you've wrote down in your own list. But don't just write your own stuff. Ask other people, because it's nice to hear, and it's nice to give it as well. If Lou came to me one day and just said, "Oh, mate, what do you think I'm really good at?" I'd answer it any day of the week. Any day of the week, I'd happily answer that.
Yeah.
And I found when I did it, the people who I asked, I was worried that they were just going to ignore the message. They didn't. They just gave me a completely honest answer.
That would have made you feel like shit if they ignored it. But it's interesting to get other people's insights, though. Definitely. I mean, I think I've asked people. I think people have come to me before and says, "Oh, you're really good at this or this," but I've definitely asked
them.
No, I've never asked them. I've asked people what. Interestingly enough, I've asked people what they think I'm bad at, which was only
exactly.
And then people look at you like, "What? What's going on here?"
Or what do you think I can improve on? That's
you
know what? That's the natural question, isn't it? How could I have improved?
You ask it at work, don't you? What can I do to improve? And you start obsessing. Well, how do I get better? How do I get better? Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah.
You should ask, how can I be at my best more often?
Yeah. I think even if you just wrote that down, you could, like you say, you could ask. First of all, you could write it down and what you think that the answers are going to be, and then you can actually.
Yeah. That's exactly what I did. No, that's exactly what I did.
And then I bet you were surprised. And
I was very surprised.
Yeah, you get a different perspective on stuff. So
why don't you do that, man? You do that. I'm challenging you to do that. And then next week we'll talk about the answers and how you found the answers.
Right, awkwardly enough then, what I'll do is I'll pick 3 people. Obviously not you. I'm not going to ask you.
No, ask me as well as the 4th person. I want to give it to you anyway.
So what I'll do when we finish this podcast is I'll message three of the lads privately.
Yeah.
And just say, I'm not even going to say sorry. I'm just going to say, "Oh, what do you think I'm good at?"
No.
See what they say.
Right.
I'll say this. No. Maybe I'll say.
I'm going to say I'll send you the questions after to send to them.
Yeah.
And you just got to man up, and you just got to send it, and you've got to feel comfortable in that uncomfortable space of being vulnerable.
But it's interesting though, because we're always more critical of ourselves than other people. Like, people mostly only have positive things to say about you anyway.
Otherwise, they wouldn't hang around you.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you think that everyone else is negative, but that's probably only because you at the moment are being negative. Where, like you say, if I look at other people, I don't think negative at all. I always think positive stuff, and I've seen stuff on other people which I don't think is a big deal at all. For example, like, I've seen someone with a stretch mark, and I haven't even thought about it. Whereas my own, I'm like, "Oh no, I really don't like them." Whereas I look at theirs and I'm like, "I don't give a shit. It looks fine."
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean? So it goes to show that our own negativity can definitely influence the way that we think others feel about us.
I think that will be an interesting exercise for you. And I think it will be an interesting exercise for a lot of people as well. You've got to have the guts to be able to do it, though. It's all well and good to listen to us say it, but you've got to do it, because it's so good. You don't realise how good it is receiving positive feedback. And it's probably been so long for people since they've received that. Because you get it from people liking your photo. Yeah, nice, brilliant. You've liked my photo, or you sent me a message saying, "Yeah, no, I really like that." When you get some genuine positive affirmations that you can then, it goes back to, what episode was it when we were saying put it into your echo chamber, where you put some positivity into your echo chamber. Well, that's what we're doing now.
Second one, I think it was. Yeah. Yeah, definitely, and just that little bit of good feedback can change someone's life.
It can. It can change your whole opinion on yourself as well.
Yeah, it is. It is quite intriguing to know sort of how much power our thoughts have over us. So, in terms of being negative, but I feel like equally, once you start getting into a positive mindset, that takes a hold of you, and all of a sudden you're so positive, and you're spreading out positivity to not only yourself but others. And I just think I'm going to ask that question anyway, and we'll see what the response is. And I think it'll be interesting to see. I'm also gonna share with you, before I give the answers next time, what I wrote down about myself, about what I think they're gonna say, and then see what they actually say. And I think it's also going to be helpful, because it's about opening up to people and feeling like you can actually talk to your friends about deep stuff. Like, not everything's always joking around and stuff. Sometimes you do need to have those meaningful conversations, don't you, with people?
Yeah, you really do. And I think you need to pick people that you don't usually have these kind of conversations with.
Because they're probably like...
They're the ones who probably have most to say.
Yeah, and to be honest, it'll probably help them as well, because they're probably maybe a bit negative about themselves. Like, everyone's stuck in their own thought loops in the mind, especially, like you say, with lockdown and stuff. People are just... It's not healthy, like, for a human to just be sitting in all the time, pondering on these thoughts all the time. Do you see what I mean? Whereas when you get out and about, I feel like people are just a lot more healthy. But sitting in the house, people can think for hours and hours and hours, and that's what I did even before lockdown, to be fair. But you've got to get yourself out of that, and there's always stuff that you can do as well. There's always stuff you can do to help your confidence, even if you are stuck at home. Would you agree with that? Because
dressing differently, just dress up.
Yeah.
Even if you are stuck at home, even if you are stuck in lockdown, dress like you're gonna go out on a night out.
I've seen a lot of people do that on Instagram, actually. Like, and it's pretty powerful stuff, that is, really, because they're making themselves feel a lot better. But it's not only that. Like, on YouTube, you can just type in 10-minute at home workout, hit workout 10 minutes, and just directly doing that 10 minutes can change the whole course of your day, can change the whole course of your mindset. So it's important to do stuff like that and find, I think you said it earlier, find what makes you feel good and what makes you feel confident.
Have you ever had an experience where someone else has really knocked your confidence, where some external reason has made you think, holy shit?
Yes, I have. When I was 14, I was doing I just got into bodybuilding, and I did a show when I was 15. But anyway, so I started doing YouTube videos. Can you remember when I uploaded them? And at the time, I'd say about 80% of the comments were good, and then I'd have like 20% of the comments would be like, "Oh, look at this fucking loser 14-year-old. I'm way bigger than he is." And I think some of them were like, I think someone had commented on my nipples, and it made me feel like shit.
Really?
Someone had said, "Oh, he's got gyno," or something like that. And I was like, right, okay, fair enough. But then I think over time, that direct hate comment made me sort of, like, I remember being at the pool even when I was lean, and I was thinking about it. So I suppose that did knock my confidence. But then I was like, well, you know what? You go onto these people's profiles and they've got a fucking picture of a dog as their profile picture. Do you know what I mean? And like, they're just hating because they're jealous. Like, I'm not saying like I was anything special or anything like that, but the only reason.
Whoa. Yes, you were.
I looked good.
If you went back and looked at Lou at 14, he was ripped. Was ripped. I was a couple years below Lou in school, and everyone used to look up to me like, "Oh my god, this guy is insane." And the fact that just one comment that could have been from anybody about his nipples resonated so much to him that it stayed with him for years.
I don't care about it now. Do you know what I mean? But
so what do you think? What do you think helped you get over that? Because there may be people listening to this right now who've just had someone comment on something that they weren't aware of.
Yeah.
and it's really not them.
The best advice I could give is acceptance. Just accept that some people are out there just to talk shit. Do you know what I mean? Like, even on this podcast, we might get comments about people that would never think to do what we're doing, and they'll be like, well, I hate on it. But I think as soon as you realise that often hate is a reflection on them, not you, I feel like if you can get your head around that, then you start to realise, well, you start to almost feel sympathy for the person, because you're like, oh, okay, then, well, you're obviously not happy with yourself if you're trying to bring me down. And I think also exposure as well. Like, I carried on going. I didn't let it stop me. I kept making the videos. I thought, I'm not going to let this stop me. And yeah, I think you've just got to not give a shit. I know it sounds crazy, but just say, like, F it. Have the F it mentality at times. The only thing that matters is what you think about yourself. It doesn't matter what anybody else thinks, because you're the one that has to live with yourself 24 hours a day. So it's important to get your inner dialogue going good.
I had an experience where, so for me, I was called, I think the name was something like gravestone teeth or something like that.
Yeah. Fucking hell, I bet that stayed with you, didn't it, man? I've never even thought about that. What's that about?
They said that my teeth look like, like gravestones, like the...
Yeah.
Yeah, they just said that my teeth look like gravestones.
When was this? At school, or?
That was... I've had that for a long time. And it took me... So I always thought, when I'm older, I'm going to get Invisalign, and I'm going to fix my smile. I'm going to make myself look. I'm going to fix that part of me. I listened to there was a J. Cole song called "Crooked Smile," and he says that he's got millions and millions of pounds, and even then, he's not going to fix his smile because that's his. And that was something that was so powerful to me, because someone was trying to take something from me that was very unique, and that's my smile's unique. So why should I feel ashamed of that, and why should I feel like I need to change it? And it took years. It took years to get over that, and it took years to actually smile with my teeth in photos. That's one of the reasons that if you would have gone back to that first photo after a breakup, I would never show my teeth. I'd never show them. But
again, this is amazing, because like, I have never once thought that about you. So like, something when we were out a couple of years ago that was so big in your mind, was not even a thought in my mind. Like, so it just goes to show that you get so wrapped up in the shit that other people feed you. But again, that's what I mean. Like, you have to understand that some people are just out there to talk shit. Or say, for example, someone might be self-conscious about their teeth, so then automatically they start, because they want to make themselves feel better, they want to look at people and like, oh, well, he hasn't got good teeth either, so fuck him, he's in the same category as me. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
So I honestly do think that it goes with self-esteem. I am a big advocate for, like, if people really feel like they do want to make a change, like if you said to me, oh, I really do want to do Invisalign for the right reasons, I'd be like, yeah, go for it. But if you're doing it to please other people, what's going to happen is that whoever said to Jack, oh, you need to fix your smile or whatever, if he did that and went back to that person, says, right, okay, I'll fix the smile, and then they would then say, well, you've got this, you've also got this wrong with you, so you need to fix this now. And then, do you know what I mean? Or not? Yeah. They're constantly trying to put you down.
Mate, that's a very good point. That's a very good point, because if you are going to change something about yourself, make sure you're doing it for you. Make sure you're not doing it for a specific person. Make sure you're not doing it just to please someone else. Make sure you're doing it for the right reasons, and you're doing it because you know that internally this will give you a boost that you need. That is different. That is different, because I've changed things about my face that, like, for instance, my eyebrows. I used to have eyebrows that would literally, if you went back to my old photos, I had eyebrows that were like this big. And I just didn't like that. I didn't like that about myself. That wasn't someone else didn't.
Again, yeah, I've never noticed it. I didn't. Yeah, it's one of them, isn't it?
Yeah. You wouldn't have noticed it. I'll tell you what, if I sent you a picture now, you would have.
But yeah, no, I know, I do agree with you. If you feel like that for yourself,
Yeah.
then of course, like, make yourself feel good, but don't go dictating your life and around like what other people are saying about you. And
Keep questioning why. Why do you want to do it? Just, I think the rule is if you ask yourself 5 times, usually you get to the root cause.
yeah,
If you answer the question why 5 times, you'll get there.
100%, man, 100%.
I think with that, man, I think that wraps up the podcast.
It's a lot of information.
It's a lot. It's a lot of information. I was going to try and summarize it, but it's incredibly difficult to try and summarize all that. So, some of the things that we were saying, obviously,
Stop giving a fuck.
stop giving a fuck. Find out whose voice it is that's telling you to change, or to find out whose dialogue it is, whether it's your own or whether it's someone else's that you've internalized.
Yeah.
Stop focusing on your weaknesses. Focus on your strengths. Focus on what you can nourish as part of your strengths, and find what truly makes you happy about yourself. And build on that. Make that a core foundation of your being.
And if you really want help with that as well, listen to some positive affirmations on YouTube, because it gives you another perspective.
You were doing that the other day.
Yeah, exactly. And you'll hear it and you'll be like, oh my God, like, this is so powerful. And you just get a different perspective, and it really helps you personally to go into your own mind and realise what you are good at. So if you're struggling, positive affirmations is definitely something to look at.
Get the feedback from other people. Get that feedback, because I tell you what, it's very powerful. It's very
That's what
powerful.
I'm going to do for next week. I'm going to make sure I bring it with me. So,
all these things that we've spoken about on the podcast are what we have used to help us gain our confidence back. There's some things that may work for you, there's some things that may not. The biggest advice that we can give you, though, is make yourself happy. Don't look through the eyes of others to try and please them, because that's not going to give you the happiness that you need.
Yeah. I think that'll work in 100% of cases as well. Like, I know some of the stuff we've said is subjective to the person, but that direct statement that you've just said right there will be true for everyone. So, I love it, man.
Please share the video, and as always, subscribe. Interact with us on Instagram. We're at 600 followers now. It's crazy the amount of followers that we're getting and the support that we're getting from people. So we appreciate it as always. And finally, check up on your strong friend.